Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in to the Educational Numismatist. This is the first video in a series where I will be covering every generation of PCGS holder, starting with the original 1.0 all the way through the current generation 6.1. So the question becomes, how do you identify the various generations? Well, let's get started with the very first. The PCGS Generation 1.0 holder, introduced in early 1986, marks the beginning of third-party coin encapsulation. Its label is a plain white cardstock insert printed with a crude dot matrix printer. The label includes 3 horizontal lines: the coin details, the grade, and the certification number. The holder is made of a clear 2-piece plastic shell that had no internal gasket. Because of this, the coin is free to move inside, giving rise to the nickname Rattler. Look for the 4 visible corner posts inside the slab, as these are very distinctive to early generation holders. On the reverse, you'll find an insert label with 4 lines of text: Professional Coin Grading Service. There's no logo, no hologram, and no security features, just clean, justified typography. The slab features rounded corners and smooth, untextured edges, subtle but different from later generations. Okay, so let's go ahead and summarize for a Generation 1.0 holder. There are 7 key features to look for. First, white cardstock insert. Second, a very crude dot matrix printed text. Third, no logo, no barcode, and no graphics. Fourth, the 3-line format. Fifth, look for the 4 visible corner pins. Sixth, there is no gasket. The coin can and usually does rattle. And seventh, the reverse insert says nothing more than Professional Coin Grading Service. Generation 1.0, rare, collectible, and mechanically simple. This is the slab that started it all. Next up, Generation 1.1. Subtle changes, but the same Rattler soul. Okay, with Generation 1.0, we've laid down the baseline. Now, every generation going forward will be compared to the prior generation. After only a few days in production, PCGS decided to discontinue Generation 1.0 in favor of Generation 1.1. The primary difference between the two was a little bit of a refinement in the quality of the dot matrix printing on the Gen 1.1 label. The primary way to distinguish between the two is the quality of this dot matrix printing. Specifically, look at the number 5 in both labels. You will notice a significant difference in the way the number 5 is formed. So what happens if you get stuck because you can't really tell the difference between the 2 types of dot matrix labels? Well, I can make it even more simple for you. All you really need to do is look at the cert number. Generation 1.0 started with cert number 1,080,001. When they started Gen 1.1 a few days later, PCGS started their numbering at 1,081,378. So if you have a coin that has a cert number of 1081378 or lower, you have a Generation 1.0 label. Otherwise, you're looking at a Generation 1.1. So as you can also note, the label's alignment is a little bit more centered, a little bit more square, and it does appear that there is a little bit more quality control. As for the holder construction, Generation 1.1 maintains the clear two-piece plastic shell with no gasket. The coin is still free-floating and may rattle, so the Rattler nickname still applies. The holder is still ultrasonically sealed with the same four corner pegs clearly visible. The corners remain rounded at the edges, and the case is untextured, just like Gen 1.0. Structurally, it's identical to Gen 1.0, including the dimensions and the edge style. As for the reverse insert, it's essentially again identical to Gen 1.0. It's the solid panel with four lines of white block text stating only professional coin grading service. There is no logo, no hologram, and there are no security features. So the key visual indicators of Gen 1.1 are almost the same as Generation 1.0. The only real difference being item number 2. That dot matrix text has slightly better and bolder text and is better aligned print. The quality of the printing is the primary way you will be able to distinguish between Gen 1.0 and 1.1, in addition to the cert numbers. For whatever reason, PCGS decided to start their certification numbers with 1,080,000. So when you see a slab with a certification number in the 1,080,000 range, you should get excited, especially if it has a white cardstock label, because you know you've got either a Generation 1.0 or 1.1, both of which are highly desirable, very sought after, and carry considerable premiums on the collector market. All right, that sums up Generation 1.1. Let's move on to 1.2, the Rattler you probably already know. Released in mid to late 1986, the PCGS Gen 1.2 slab marks the final version of what collectors affectionately refer to as the Rattler. While structurally identical to Gen 1.0 and 1.1, Generation 1.2 introduced one highly visible change: the color and material of the label. Generation 1.2 replaces the earlier white cardstock insert with a light green paper label. This is why collectors generally refer to these holders as OGH, or old green holders. This new green label was printed using a dot matrix printer just like before, and it maintained the same blocky, low-resolution appearance that was consistent with prior generations. The label format remained unchanged as well, consisting of 3 horizontal lines: the top line for coin details, second line for the grade, third line for the cert number in the standard split format. Despite the visual difference in the label, the holder itself remained the same. Gen 1.2 still uses a clear two-piece plastic shell, ultrasonically sealed with 4 visible corner posts, and again does not include a gasket. That meant that coins placed in these holders were allowed to move freely within the case, therefore preserving the Rattler nickname that was shared with previous generations. The reverse insert panel also remained consistent, featuring 4 lines of white block text printed on a solid background. Still no PCGS logo, barcode, or hologram, and no overt security features. The edges of the slab are rounded and untextured, just as with Gens 1.0 and 1.1. From a collector's perspective, Generation 1.2 is most easily identified by the light green label. If it's green, rattles, and lacks any form of logo or barcode, you're looking at a Gen 1.2 holder. So in summary, the defining characteristics of a Generation 1.2 holder include 1. Light green paper label, 2. Dot matrix printed text, 3. A 3-line label format, 4. No PCGS logo or barcode, 5. No internal gasket, coin can still rattle, 6. 4 visible corner pins, 7. The reverse insert with the 4-line professional coin grading service text. And 8. Rounded, clear plastic slab with no bevel or texture. Generation 1.2 concludes the Rattler sequence and bridges the gap between PCGS's utilitarian beginnings and its transition toward branded, secure slab designs. It's not just a label color, it's the end of an era. So whether it's the crisp cardstock of Gen 1.0 or the darker, somewhat more refined printing of Gen 1.1, or that unmistakable green label of Gen 1.2, for PCGS, the Rattler era is where it all began. If this video has been helpful to you and maybe even helped you spot the differences or appreciate the evolution of the hobby, please give it a thumbs up. And I'd appreciate it if you could drop a comment below if you've got one of these early slabs in your collection, or even if you're just hunting for one. In the next episode, I'm going to go ahead and tackle Generation 2.0, which includes the legendary doily. The Doily Holder 2.0 was a short-lived but gorgeous and extremely collectible holder that PCGS released for only a few weeks. So hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what might be the most beautiful PCGS slab ever made.